So welcome to the next session. So we have already seen how do we work on text. So let's first open the Android Studio and move on to the next widget. So what we will be discussing today will be containers. So container, think of it as a container by name is a container which can contain another widget. So in case we want to, let's say, hold that container with a particular style, we can do that. So this is what we have done till now. And what we are going to do is probably delete all of it and then start our container start maybe just for the ease of visualization, and I don't want our page to become too long and messy. So I made a small presentation. I will walk you through that. Okay, let's open that as well. So if you can see, what generally happens is we are writing text style. Of course, we are doing text transformation and we are changing the fonts, we are changing the colors. However, if you want to put that text within a container, so that's how it will look like on the right hand side. So yep, so this is how it will be. Moving to the next slide. So how we can have that text containers. So if you want to try containers, you can of course have a circular container or a rectangular container, and then that container you can also define certain, like these might be, you have seen the space between the text and the border of the container, and over here it is like very close, it is just wrapping up the text. So what do you do? Of course, one of the things we have done is return a child of type text and then give it a color blue. But to give that, you need to have a box widget in it. So how do we do that? So in this case, we keep the decoration as a box decoration. So again, there is a container. That container contains a child of text, and that text is now in a container whose decoration type is of type box decoration, and the shape will be a circle and the color will be blue. Again, you might be interested what are these margins, edge insets all, and padding. So maybe help you understand a little bit on that is this container will have this space over here. That will be your, you can say, padding. The text is padded. Over here it is padded a little less, over here is padded a little more, and this side because of the shape is padded. Now between the, you can say, edge and over here, this is your margin. Now you can define a margin by left, then top, then right, and then at the bottom. Same way your padding can be left, top, right, and bottom. Additionally, what you can do is you can also define the length and the width, or you can say height and the width of the widget or of the container as well. Okay, so what we can do is, so over here we have defined a width of 200. So the width is 200 in this side, and the height is 100, and this side is height and that is 100, and the text inside or whatever that child, the text will be centrally aligned, and again the color is blue. So this is a better way to look at it. So this is your margin. So this blue color is my container. So before we start from the top, this is my margin from the top, this is my margin from the right, this is my margin from the next widget is you can say bottom, and from the beginning of the screen or from the previous widget, this is my left. Same way, this is the container itself, and I can define the border of the container. So in this case, this border is very thick, and then once I place my content, this in case for a previous examples is a child widget. So this widget, and from where the border ends, this thing is the top padding, this thing is my right padding, this thing over here is my bottom padding, and this side over here is my left padding. So when we have to define our padding, we can define it as left, top, right, and bottom. Same way when we have to define our margin, we can define margin as left, top, right, bottom, and in case you want to make it uniform, just say margin all or padding all. Okay, so over here it says edge inset all, and it's written 25 and 40. In case of edge inset dot all, You can also define edge inset dot left, top, right, and bottom. We will see it. Okay, move next. So in case you want to have some fancy transformations, you can do that with the container as well. So let's understand what are those transformations are. So this is your container. So if you want to flip that container like a 3D view, and if you flip it on x-axis, it will look like something like this. So your original image was this, I can say light blue or gray color box. And once you rotate it, it is now showing it in yellow color. Same way, in case you want to rotate it in z-axis, that's how you rotate. And the rotation generally happens in a matrix and it takes radians. So radians to degrees, I think it's more of a mathematical thing. I'm not going to do into that, but that's how it moves. So once you do the transformation, you also, and if you're doing a matrix transformation of x, y, and z, so that's how the container will move, and you have to define by how many radians you want to move. Okay, so that's more of a textual part, and let's start building the app. Okay, I'm going to close the presentation, and then we see how do we do it. Okay, again, let's open our simulators. I'm going to open my simulator of iPhone, and I'm also going to open my simulator of Android Pixel device, and also let's open our iPad 12.9 inch 5th generation. Okay, so with all our emulators on and without making any changes like what we did our last time, so let's simply run this on our iPad. Oh, sorry, not iPad but iPhone. All right, so it's downloading or starting the dev tools. It is now going to compile. Since it's iPhone, it will be an Xcode build. The program will compile itself, and then it will be pushed to the iPhone and it will run. Okay, while it is running, let's simply make it a little bit simple, and we are going to delete all of it. So these children are in column, so they are coming line by line. We can of course define it in a row. Okay, it lost connection. That's not good. Let's do it again then. Okay, it's running. So hopefully, because we haven't made any changes, the build will be much faster and it is going to execute it. Okay, syncing files, and that's it. So let's delete some of it and let's write another program. So this time we are going to create a container, and this is my child as a container. As simple, this is an empty container. Of course, a container needs to have a child. I'm going to give it a child of type text, and just write container1. Apologies for my spelling. And let's hot restart. Yep, looks very good. So instead of deleting it, or if you don't want to delete it, you can comment that. That's also works fine. So we will not get too much distracted with our previous task. Okay, that's a container one. In case you want to have another container, let's have container 2 and a container 3. Very simple. We're just putting up a container, and now the container doesn't have any border because we haven't defined any property of the container. So in case you want to define certain properties, let's define maybe what are the properties of a child have. In case you are not aware, just point your mouse on top of a container. You can have a color, of course. You can have a transform we also do. You can have a height and width in case you want to define that, and you can also do some sort of decoration like a rectangular or a circular decoration, and then you can define your alignment like center, and then padding, or in case you want to have a margin, define a margin to it. We already understood what are the difference between margins and padding, and let's do that. So okay, let's define a color first. So in case you want to define a color dot colors dot red. Okay, so let's run it. Now this container is now in a red color, but the container is wrapping around the child object. In case we don't want it wrap around the object, we can give it a, you can say, padding, so that the container pads up the object in it. So as you see, we can define the padding in a way here, and let's do some padding. Padding is of type edge inset geometry. So we want to do some padding, and depends upon how much padding you want. Let's do edge inset. So again, as I told you, you can have it from left, top, right and bottom, and then you can define 4 values against it. In case you want it all, just define it all, and it will have a similar value for left, right, left, top, right and bottom. So let's say all and a value of 10. So now this container 1 text is now padded inside the red container, and it has a spacing of red from the left. This is your left, this is your top, this thing is your right, and this thing is your bottom. However, the container is still stuck with the borders of the screen, and that's because we have not defined, you can say, any margins. So if you want to define margins as well, define margin. And again, margin is of type edge insets. And again, similar thing, if you want to have a separate for left, right, top, bottom, you do that. If you want to do all, so let's say in this case we do it from the left, I want 20, from the top I want only 5, from the right, let's say 0, or put up any number in case you want 10, and from bottom again I define, let's say 8. So execute that. So it will have you can see 20 from the left, but from the top is only 5. So if you make it 20 again, then it will have a margin on the top also. Yeah, I see, came down because now it has a top margin of 20. So if you make it all and just define a value of 10, that will make a uniform spacing between it. All right, so so far so good. You now probably have understood how the things will work like. Now what should we do? As I told you, this text container is a text, and I have already told it nothing is stopping you from having your own text decoration, and you can always mix and match those styles. Like over here, we put up a separate script. So in case we want to have this style over here, which is of text style, and I'm going to copy that, and if you put it inside this this text container, that's also fine. Now this entire text with this kind of style is in part of this container, so it's more of a nested picture, and if I execute it, works perfectly fine. And similar way, in case you want a color of it, but let's say this time make it a rectangle. So how we are going to do that? This is already rectangle by default, but we can apply a decoration to it. Now let's apply our box decoration. So this is a child of text widget, and give it a box decoration. Or so to give a box decoration, we can give it a decoration. That decoration will be of type, like if you point your mouse over here, so you need to define a decoration. That decoration will be of box decoration. So box decoration, and that it's an empty box decoration, and that box decoration can have a shape. The default shape is rectangle, and of course you can define a different type like colors inside it. So let's say give it a shape, and the shape will be whatever shape you want to give. Box shape dot circle or box shape dot rectangle. Let's say box shape dot rectangle. Perfectly fine. And let's run it. Now you probably see there is no difference, and the reason there is no difference is again, we have not defined a color for it. So it is inside a container, but we cannot see it because the color is not defined. So within that box shape of this shape, and this decoration, which is this box decoration, in case you want to put it for the new line for the ease of understanding, do that. Let's give it a color. So the color will be what color you want to give. Let's say purple. I don't know how easy it will be. Maybe amber accent, so that it will be a contrasting color. Oh, sorry, I made some error. Okay, the decoration is over here. I have made an error over here, so this should get cut, and the error is with the brackets. I put it outside rather than inside. Yeah, so now this amber accent color is my container, and that container contains a text which has its own style. So of course you can mix and match. Same way, if you don't want to mix and match and just want to give it a box decoration, so I'm going to copy all of it, and I'm going to give it to my another container. And let's say if I want to define a height and width, I can do that as well. So let's run it, and but instead of okay, if we run it, there is no difference. And if you want to give it instead of a rectangular, you may want to give it a different shape, which is circle. Now it has a circle margin it, and in case you want to also give it certain margins, I think we can do that as well. So let's give it certain margins. So maybe if you want to copy from here, absolutely no problem. We want to paste it here. Okay, and maybe a new line for the ease of understanding. And if you want to make it really big, give it 60, give it 60, it will be massive. Yeah, so a lot of margins and a lot of padding. And definitely you can also do a text decoration of this text. But if you want to make it rectangle and try different things, give it a decoration of rectangle, or maybe simply add another container and give it a child, and child will be a it's text, and that text will be hello. Yep, so far so good. And this time, now why this hello is coming over here, because there is lot of, you can say, margin between this container. So this container has a bottom margin of 60, so it will keep a 60 space, and then this widget will come. So let's give it a height of again 50 and a width of 50 and a color of what color you like. Colors dot, let's give it a purple. Run it. So that's it. So there is a container of 50 size, and because we have not defined an alignment, it is still stuck to the top. So if you want to give it a alignment to the container, we can do that as well. We can give it alignment, and then alignment can be centered. And or if you want to give it a transformation, we can do a transformation in case you want to rotate it. So to do a transformation, what we need to do is we need to transform it. So as you have seen in the container, this is where you can transform it with the type matrix 4. So let's give it a transform of matrix 4 type. So transform, as you put your mouse on top of the transform, in case you are not sure, it is of type matrix 4. So let's give it a transform of type matrix 4. So matrix 4, and you want to rotate it. Again, you can rotate it by X, Y, and Z. Let's say if you want to rotate by X, And as we understood in our presentation, when you rotate, you have to define it in radians. So 1 minus 1.4 radians is 80 degrees. That's a lot. So maybe we try to give it. So how many radians you want? Let's say 0.5. I'm just giving it a nominal value. So it has skewed a little bit. So your hello might have been rotated in case you want to give it 1.5 and you run it. So it's rotated on x-axis and it's very poorly visible. You want to give it 0.8. So it's rotated. In case you want to rotate it by, let's say, z-axis and give it 0.8, it will get rotated on z-axis. Again, that's how 0.3 radians is this. We gave it a higher value. We gave it 0.8. It rotated even further. So that's how transformation works. And again, as I told you, you can have additional values to it. You can have that text bigger, smaller, and while you have defined your height and width, you can also define your margins without the padding. In case you want to define a padding, define a padding. So I'm going to copy a padding over here. So along with height and width, the position doesn't matter. You can put it anywhere you like. As long as you do the necessary formatting, it will do it. And if in case you want a bigger, I'm putting up a very high number. So it's out. So a 50 cannot afford because your height and width is 50 and you give it a 50, it's out of the box. So in case you want to give it a height of 150 and width of 150, then it's a very big box. So it has a padding of now 50 in it. And because we transformed it, this picture is a little bit out of bounds. All right. So anyways, you got the idea. You got how to can put our basic text within those containers, and then what we can do with our containers, and depending upon the demand of your app, you can do that. Also, as we have understood that these containers can have those child, that child can be anything, and that child again can have their own style, and there is no limit of how much you can do. And you can have, so in this case, we can have a text container with a specific style who is having a box decoration which is inside this container, and that container is now inside these columns, because this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, and that column is part of a body, and that body along with this app bar is part of this scaffold, and that scaffold is being returned to the app which is of material app. So I hope you got the idea. In case you want to delete these comments for the ease, do that, and that's it. So I hope you like it. Any queries, let me know. And again, please like the video, please subscribe the video, and please share this video with your friends who also want to learn Flutter. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and I see you soon. Peace.